Good afternoon from Queen's School of Business. My name is Xin He. I am the moderator for today's session, Achieving Peak Performance Through Health and Wellness Practices. I'll be joined shortly by Ryan and Faizan, but I will cover some of the early housekeeping stuff before we start the presentation. We encourage you to share the webinar invitation that you receive in your email to friends and colleagues. We have a sign-up form on our website, qsb.ca/webinars. It's very easy to fill out, and once you fill that out, you will for sure receive the invitation each month to our webinar. It usually covers various business topics, and they're always free of charge. So today's session is recorded, and you will receive the recording 3 to 4 business days after today's event. And in the recording, you'll be able to hear the talk and as well watch the slides. And again, you are welcome to share the recording with friends and colleagues who cannot join us today but may find it useful. So if you have a question, don't wait until the very end to ask, because that will make the moderation difficult. So please use the chat window and also the Q&A window on the right-hand side of your screen to ask questions. If you do use the chat window, please direct the question to the host, and that way I can just write them down and pass them around the table to our presenters. If you are a Twitter user, you can tweet out today's session using a hashtag QSBwebinar. So if you have a technical difficulty during the presentation, the most common one that we got is the audio will drop out. If it does drop out, please understand that it's usually momentarily. It will usually come back after a minute or two by himself. But if it does not come back, feel free to send me a message using the chat window, and I'll be happy to help. So I will introduce today's session leader. We have Ryan and Faizan here with me today. Ryan is the manager of the Fit to Lead program in Queen's School of Business here. He joined the school in year 2003 to take on the leadership, development, and implementation of the Fit to Lead program. He's working with all the Queen's MBA and executive education programs. He graduated and holds a master's degree here in Queen's University. In addition, he holds several distinctive coaching, health, and wellness certifications. And Faizan is a performance coach here in Fit to Lead program. His experience as a varsity athlete and psychology major led him to pursue a master's degree in sports psychology. He also worked as a mental skill coach in the area of sports, education, and business. Currently, he's doing his PhD degree in psychology here at Queen's University. So without further ado, I now pass the microphone to Ryan, who will be leading the presentation today.
Hello, and welcome to Achieving Peak Performance Through Health and Wellness. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Ryan, and joining us later will be my colleague, Faizan. And as pointed out, we are both coaches with the Fit to Lead program at Queen's School of Business. In the past 10 years at Queen's School of Business, our program has been working with executive clientele, mostly MBA and Queen's executive education participants. And we've been working with these leaders, assisting them find balance, improve performance, productivity, energy, or focus. We've been doing this under a program umbrella called Fit to Lead, which is offered in both of our MBA programs and executive education programs. This program is all about helping our clients learn skills and strategies to improve performance and productivity in both their work and personal lives. We focus on using health and wellness research and measures to assist our clients create this awareness, learn new strategies, or make changes. Ideally, at the end of the day, we help our clients achieve improved energy levels, increased concentration, improved time management, sharper focus, or an adjustment on how they hope to live their lives. The research we did to found the Fit to Lead program asked the question, what can we do to help these individuals achieve peak performance? Ingrained in the existing research, as well as conducting our own, we identified 4 significant areas to focus on: physical, mental, nutrition, and Queen's performance. And we have focused our programming, content, and coaching on helping individuals improve in these areas, taking steps towards achieving their own peak performance. Fazan and I have broken this presentation up into these 4 pillars. I will first be speaking about the physical and nutritional performance pieces, and Fazan will later come in to cover off the mental and Queen's performance pieces. We'll then open the door for questions. In our time coaching and working with our clients, we have learned many lessons about strategies that work and ones that don't. A couple of things that stand out consistently the most. First, we fundamentally believe that all individuals have the ability to influence their own performance. And this ability, combined with a successful strategy, will lead to a positive result. It is a successful strategy that most people are often not aware of, need coaching on, or support to get to. They have it within themselves someplace. Our role as coaches is just to help them find it. I have a colleague who, when explaining this concept, uses this activity. He asks everybody in the room to put up their hands as high as they can go. As you can imagine, many in the room start to put up their hands, most only partially. Again, he asks, no, I really want you to put your hands up as high as they can go. People then obviously put their hands up a little bit higher. One more time, he asks the questions. No, I really want you to put your hands up as high as it can go. People then clue in what he really means. People begin to stand up and reach as high as they can, stand on the tables or the chairs in the rooms, or go to the highest point in the classroom. Everyone's hands clearly got a lot higher during this exercise. You see, everyone has the ability. We often just lack the strategy in order to get the desired results. So, a good tool to remind yourself of from time to time when you are not getting the results you desire. Ability, which we all have, plus strategy, which we often have defined, equals results. Secondly, we know, demonstrated by countless number of research, that small changes are the most effective. You will see throughout this presentation, all of the strategies that we recommend are small changes that can be easily implemented. So even if you want to make a big change, we always suggest breaking it down into the smallest steps. And thirdly, with that concept in mind, the mantra that we often ask our clients is, what can you do today to make yourself just 1% better? So with that notion, we hope to share with you today a series of diverse health and wellness practices that are ingrained in research and follow the mold. How can I today make myself 1% better? For those of you getting worried, well, I hope we haven't scared many of you off yet. But not to worry, this is not complicated stuff. In fact, many of these strategies I'm sure you have heard before. The reason you've heard them before is that they can be successful. So without further delay, let's get to our first performance tip. First performance tip is a simple one, move more often. There's an abundance of research supporting this concept, as you can imagine. And with most of the tips today, we will be discussing one specific study to highlight this strategy. We know from research that only about 25% of how long we live is dictated by genes. The other 75% is determined by our lifestyle and the everyday choices that we make. In this case, the Blue Zone study in 2012, which essentially looked at specific communities across the globe where there was a higher percentage of individuals living longer than average lifespans, concludes that if we optimize our lifestyles, we can maximize our life expectancies within our biological limits. The study highlights 9 specific commonalities of these communities that live long, healthy lives, demonstrated on your screen now. Many of these findings we'll actually discuss to some extent later in this presentation, but for now, we want to focus on the top of the pyramid, move naturally. This was found to be the most important link to living long, healthy lives. People in these communities were found to be adding regular daily movement in many ways, to gather for social conversations, to work independently, or to work actively to produce food for a family gathering. As you can see from these pictures, it was also critical that when we age, we continue to be active in many different ways. I don't necessarily recommend water skiing at age 92, but hey, I could think of a lot worse things. So, how do we learn from this research? Simple. Find ways to add movement into your life daily rather than remove it. We typically try to find the closest parking spot, take the elevator, not the stairs, sit while we're talking on the phone, online, or watching TV. Instead, find places to add movement into your routine, both at work and at home. Aim for at least 10,000 steps per day, or about 1 hour of movement added up. Do short exercise bursts in your office each hour, 1 or 2 minutes at a time. Arrange your meetings to be walking meetings. Always stand while on your cell phone. Arrange meetings in other people's offices rather than your own. Walk to get your lunch to the farthest bathroom or to the farthest water fountain when you need a hydration break. These movement breaks not only will help you with long-term health as the study suggests, but more importantly, this is our #1 suggestion for maintaining energy levels throughout the day. Move every hour, or even more if you can, even just for a couple minutes at a time. Remember, small things adding up do make a difference. Moving regularly is easy to do, but also very, very easy to forget. Our next performance tip is fitness for anyone, anywhere, and anytime. We've got lost in the world of fitness, thinking that we have to follow routines, go to the gym in order to work out for a long period of time in order to get benefits, and most importantly, that we think fitness has to be an all or nothing activity. Well, let me tell you, there's a huge difference between training to be a high-performance athlete and training to ensure that you maximize your energy, focus, or concentration. Although it's great to take lessons from athletic performance, in this case, we may have taken fitness too far. Think about this for a second. An athlete trains their body the same way that you may train for your subject matter expertise. For example, let's say you're training to become an accountant. You spend a great deal of time on hitting the books, learning the important lessons, and continue to do so throughout your career to ensure you are at the top of your game. An athlete studies and trains their body the same way that you do to learn the numbers and the processes of the accounting world. These are vastly different requirements. An accountant doesn't need to train their body like an athlete in order to be successful. So fitness doesn't have to be 100% like it does for an athlete, but making it 10%, in which many of us don't, can make a world of difference. We don't need to train like an athlete to be successful. So this is all about making fitness simple and attainable for all of us, anywhere. The myth that you need to go to the gym in order to get a good workout is simply not true. It is clear that one can complete a workout without leaving the comfort of their room, office, or hotel. There are hundreds of exercises that do not require any equipment, and these are the ones that we recommend the most. For example, squats, push-ups, burpees, mountain climbers, planks, and ice skaters. Minimal resources, such as exercise bands and balls, can also be used for a great workout at home, in the office, or while you travel. One of the best indicators for lifelong health and wellness is physical activity in childhood. Youth who are physically fit and participate in physical activity when young consistently stay motivated towards when they reach adulthood and beyond. The best way to ensure future fitness is to get moving now. However, as we know, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. Guess when the second best time is? It's today. It's never too late to get started on anything. So if you aren't active, now is a great time to begin. Likewise, a healthy active lifestyle is associated with maintaining functioning in older adults. Adults who maintain an active lifestyle show less degeneration. What this research shows is that fitness is an important component of life regardless of your age, gender, and ability. At every stage of our life, we can benefit immensely from being physically fit and living a physically active lifestyle. Anytime. We believe fitness can happen anytime. One of the most common things we recommend to our clients is to add a very small amount of fitness into the routines, going from 0 to 1 rather than 0 to 10. An example of what we suggest is a Tabata-based workout. the Tabata protocol is an example of a high-intensity interval training which is extremely efficient yet effective at producing results. A study showed that elite athletes doing 4 minutes of the Tabata workout increased their anaerobic capacity by 28%, while also seeing significant gains in their aerobic capacity. We often suggest to our clients to start daily with the 4-minute Tabata workout, if that is all the time they have for. We know that this first step, going from 0 to 1, is going to make the most important difference. All research demonstrating health benefits discuss the law of diminishing returns at a fairly early stage of fitness, i.e., to the best of our knowledge, high-performance athletes have not been shown to be healthier than the average individual who has fitness as a large part of their regular routine. So, do a little bit, don't worry about doing lots unless you have time or the desire. Do it often, at any age, and do things in any location. Quit making excuses about fitness. Our third physical performance tip is to improve quality of your sleep. Doing this, if you currently struggle with sleep, may be the most critical step in improving various performance. A poor quality of sleep is linked not only to poor health, but certainly to day-to-day focus, concentration, and energy. It is an area of increased focus and research in recent times, and more research is being conducted in this area. A very well-respected colleague of ours, Julian Barling, whose primary focus is transformational leadership, has recently begun researching and studying the implications of sleep. An interesting study was done some years ago on Wall Street interns. They were looking at why these interns were spending more times on their breaks. Well, what they found is that the interns were spending an increased amount of time in the washrooms, although what they realized they were doing in the washrooms were not expected. The interns were going to the washroom, setting timers, and using break times to catch up on sleep, the phenomenon now named toilet napping. Luckily, the industry has caught up with, and we are now seeing sleep pods like this pop up in airports, busy downtown areas, or within large corporations. And as such, so individuals can have a little bit of a better nap. These just highlights the value of sleep onto our performance. Okay, you may say this is all fine and dandy, but I don't have time to sleep longer. As you likely know, the research on sleeping 7 to 8 hours per night remains pretty consistent, but is often very difficult to change the quantity of your sleep. The 1% strategies that we recommend have more to do with the quality of your sleep. So, some areas that you can think on. Your pre-sleep routine. Make sure that you're doing things in the 15 to 30 minutes before sleep that can help with your routine. For example, some of the things we recommend include progressive muscle relaxation and deep breathing, but it could be as simple as a hot shower, a little bit of light yoga. Another area that you could consider is your environment. Make sure your environment is optional for minimizing sound, light, and technology. Try to avoid technology long before sleep. And of course, there's lots of external factors as well. So we want to make sure that we're avoiding heavy exercise, lots of nutrition consumption, or avoiding naps that may negatively impact our sleep. Moving on to our nutrition area, as you know, there are many diets and choices when it comes to nutrition, and it's very easy to get lost and confused. Our first performance tip is simple: simplify nutrition. When we have too many decisions to make, we often forget to make them. There's some great research by Michael Pollan which suggests a couple of very simple things. Eat food, not too much, and mostly plants. We want to make sure that the food that we're consuming is as healthy as possible. When it comes to how much food, it's great to always leave room. So 1/3 of your stomach should be left empty. Mostly plants, we want to try to fill most of our diets with fruits and vegetables, which have shown to be really healthy. Another way we suggest to people to simplify nutrition is to use the concept of target eating. Visualize throwing all the food that you eat in any given day at a target. What food hits the target? What food doesn't? Aim to have 80% of the food you consume hit or be close to the target, and don't worry about the other 20%. Don't let nutrition be another cause for stress in your life. Keep this simple and make your own target. Foods that are closest to the target are generally the least processed and have the fewest ingredients. As we add ingredients in processing of foods, as a general rule, we move further away from the bullseye. Do your best on a daily basis to hit that target as much as possible, but don't let what you did yesterday impact your today. Remember, 80% great food, don't worry about the other 20%. Keep it simple. Our second nutrition performance tip is based on a book, Mindless Eating, that is based on research done out of Cornell University. If you were a live audience right now, I'd ask each of you to make a guess on how many decisions we made about food each day. In fact, what I'd like everybody to do is in their head, or write it on a piece of paper, how many decisions you think we make each day when it comes to food. When I ask this question, we often get responses like 21, 36, 15, or even 50. The research done for the book at Cornell University demonstrates that on average, we make, as humans, as many as 250 decisions about food on a daily basis. Decisions such as breakfast or no breakfast, bagel or Pop-Tart, whole bagel, half bagel, dinner at home, or on the road. Because we make so many decisions about food each day, it is very easy to be unconsciously influenced by family and friends, by packages and plates, by names and numbers, labels and lights, by colors, shapes and smells, by cupboards and containers. In fact, research found that the most common barrier to eating a healthy diet were unhealthy food available in the office and lack of healthy options near the office, exactly as predicted by the mindless eating concept. We as humans most regularly eat mindlessly. Decisions are made mostly unconsciously. We want easy, convenient food. As such, we often settle for what is nearby and looks nice rather than what actually suits our nutritional philosophy. So how do we make the best use of that knowledge? Here are some of the suggestions based on the research. Reduce serving sizes and consumptions by using smaller bowls and plates. Replace short, wide glasses with tall, narrow ones. Use smaller spoons rather than larger ones. Eliminate the cookie jar or replace it with the fruit bowl. Wrap tempting foods in foil to make them less visible, and place healthier foods in the front of the refrigerator, less healthy foods to the back. Avoid multiple bowls of the same food at parties or at receptions because they just increase perceptions and stimulate consumption. From a really simple perception, we suggest doing two simple things. Be aware that we all eat mindlessly. It is very difficult to not. But we should use this knowledge to our advantage rather than our disadvantage. Reduce the possible negative effects of mindless eating by surrounding ourselves with healthy options rather than unhealthy ones. The second is to our best of our ability, eat mindfully. Try as much as possible to make conscious decisions about nutrition. This may require slowing down, asking yourself what you really want or need before putting the food inside of you. Our third nutritional performance tip, eat for energy, has to do with learning about how we use food for fuel, just like filling up the gas tank in your car, rather than eating for pleasure. By no means we suggest that we should take the pleasure out of nutrition, because I think we can all agree, isn't food wonderful? But if we thought of food like fuel just a little bit more often, it might be to our benefit. What if we couldn't overfill our own gas tank? What if we had a fuel gauge to know when we needed more? What if, just like at a gas station, we can only choose from 3 options: good food, better food, or best food? Think about that for a second. Imagine not being able to be too full, knowing exactly when we needed to refuel, and only choosing from the best high-quality food choices. A lot can be learned from thinking about food as fuel for our bodies. First of all, when learning about our own fuel gauge. Our body works best with a regular supply of energy. We can go from full to empty in a 3 to 6 hour period. It all depends on how you're using your body. We suggest looking ahead and consuming your fuel in advance. For example, by eating breakfast at 7 a.m., you should be considering your usage level from 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. and fueling for that. If you have an active morning, you may want to consume a little bit more. A quiet morning in the office, maybe a little bit less. Without thinking too much about it, several spaced out and smaller meals throughout the day can be an effective way to ensure your body is receiving the energy requirements on a daily basis. Your body can use the fresh fuel that you're putting in and will be less likely, if eating smaller meals, to be storing food, which is essentially gets converted into fat storage. Be aware of your needs and what is the most effective and efficient way to fuel your body for those needs, adapting them regularly. Think about how often you may eat the same thing or amount, but have a totally different demand on you that day. Time to switch it up. Fuel for what your body is doing. Secondly, what? And here I go back to the keep it simple, choosing the right foods and hitting the target. One of the key messages in peak performance is efficiency. You must make efficient choices in order to conserve your energy and resources and get the greatest output. As it relates to nutrition, one of the best ways to do this is to consume nutrient-dense foods. These are foods such as salmon and kale, which provide you with the most vitamins and key nutrients at the lowest cost. Consuming nutrient-dense foods allow you to get the most bang for your buck in the sense that you do not have to eat as much or as often, but can get the same value of energy. Here are some examples of some really high nutrition-dense foods in which we suggest trying to add into your diet. And lastly, how? Good nutritional decisions are not only about what you eat, but also how much. As you can see by the 3 plates on the screen now, they look very different. All 3 have the same amount of food. We can use these strategies to benefit how we eat. Over the years, our energy requirements have slowly decreased as our jobs and lifestyles have become more sedentary on average. However, portion sizes have moved in the opposite direction and progressively gotten bigger. This mismatch has led to us consistently eating more than we actually need. One way to do that is by adjusting the sizes of your plates and cutlery so that your portion sizes will be more appropriate and you will eat less. Indeed, people who eat the exact same amount of food off a smaller plate report being more full than those eating off the larger plate. As you can see, the growth of sizes of food selection options at the same time as our energy requirements decreasing. Hopefully, this leaves you with a question on how much do you really need? So before I pass it over to Fazan, a quick nutrition summary. Simplify nutrition. Don't let it stress you out. Use the target eating principle. Understand that we eat mindlessly. Try to use that to your advantage and make as many mindful choices on a daily basis. Eating for energy. Use nutrition as you would gas in your car. Don't fill up past full and only eat what you need. Fazan, on to you.
All right, thank you, Ryan, for that presentation. Good afternoon, folks. So I'm going to take over from here and take us through the rest of our presentation. Now, as Ryan said in the beginning, we've tried to incorporate as many different health and wellness components as possible into our overall philosophy. Now, physical fitness and nutritional wellness are certainly part of them, but psychological well-being is just as important. And if you think about it, someone can be very physically fit, look great on the outside and eat well, but be very stressed out and under a lot of pressure mentally. Now, being able to cope with that on a short-term basis is okay, but if you want to do it over the long haul, it's just not sustainable unless you're able to deal effectively with life's everyday challenges. So what I want to do is I want to take us through a couple strategies from the psychological perspective about how we can utilize our minds to elevate our daily functioning. Daily functioning can be anything. So for athletes, it's performing well during games and practices. For business people, it might be doing well in presentations and pitches. For students, it might be doing well on exams and tests. But for all of us, we have something that we can work on. So the first tip we want to talk about is link your mind and body. And my main goal for this strategy is to basically highlight how connected our minds and our bodies actually are. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk more specifically about body language and the effect that it has on our overall mental performance. So we all know that body language affects how other people perceive us. But research is beginning to highlight that it also has a major impact on how we ourselves think and feel. So for example, when someone is confident and performing at their peak, you can literally see this in their body language. So you've heard the expression, they exude confidence. You see this in athletes, in business people, in teachers. You can just see that they are confident and they understand their craft. But can this go the other way around? Can showing positive body language during a presentation or a pitch actually increase your confidence? Because if it can, this would obviously have a major impact on our performance. So there was some research done on this. At Harvard University, Cuddy and colleagues looked at the effect of positive body language on our internal hormones. And what they did is they had people come into a room and basically show either positive body language or negative body language for 2 minutes, and then they measured the hormones related to stress and confidence. And what they found was, after showing positive body language, individuals' hormones related to confidence, so testosterone, went up by 20%, and the hormones related to stress, cortisol, went down by 25% from baseline. So these are major changes in a very short period of time. And what this shows us is that just showing positive body language can actually have a drastic impact on our mental state as well. So what are some other links between our minds and our bodies that show this relationship? The first one is extremely simple, smiling. But research has actually shown that something as simple as smiling, which indirectly increases our mood and affect, is not only associated with, but also precedes successful performances. So when people are feeling better about themselves, when they're thinking more positively, this allows them to go into situations more prepared and actually execute better as well. One of the most important strategies in terms of mental well-being is deep breathing and progressive muscle relaxation. A lot of scientific research has shown that this diaphragmatic breathing, as well as relaxation through progressive muscles, can actually drastically reduce our physiological arousal. This, in turn, allows us to calm down and perform more at our normal pace. Lastly, you can get a great boost in mental performance by getting your body moving just by simply doing exercises. So we know that no one has ever, gone out for a workout or did an exercise and regretted it. It's often getting there and getting started which is the most difficult part. but certainly if you are moving throughout the week, throughout the month, throughout the year, you will know yourself. You just feel better. You feel more alert. You feel more, you're able to concentrate better, and it has a big impact on your mental well-being. Together, all of these highlight the deep connection between the mind and the body, and how we can use our bodies to actually always put ourselves in a position to succeed from a mental perspective. So from that broader principle, I want to start to focus on something a little bit more specific, and that is coping with stress and daily challenges. So we have a strategy called Extract the Positive, and the thinking behind this is that we want to emphasize ability and actually focus on what we can do instead of worrying and stressing about the things that you can't. Now, extracting the positive, focusing on the positive might seem like an overly simple principle, but it actually is very important, because the human brain, research has shown, is bombarded with thoughts. So throughout the day, we are constantly thinking about different things. Research has found this figure to be, it varies from day to day, but anywhere between 12,000 to 50,000 thoughts. That's an incredible amount of things that are running in and out of our minds. But the key is we can only focus on one at a time. And so this brings me to a quote from William James, who was one of the fathers of psychology, and he said, the greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another. And so if you deliberately condition your mind to focus on the positives, you automatically decrease the chances of being affected by negatives. So one of the best ways to conceptualize this is from a psychologist in Australia by the name of Paula Barrett. And she said, think about stress as being in a completely dark room, and all around you on the four walls are things that are written. So there's positive things, there's negative things, and there's neutral things. Now, the only thing you have in your hand is one flashlight. So because you're in the completely dark room, when you turn that flashlight on, do you now see everything that's written on all the walls? Of course not. You'll only see what you put your light on, and that's what you can control. In life, there's positive, negative, and neutral things, and you can't always control what happens to you, but you can control the response and what you will focus on and what you will concentrate on. And now, amazingly, that actually has the biggest impact on how much and the quality of stress and anxiety that we actually experience. So if you take this principle a bit further, here's a visualization. If you're able to lock in on a negative thought, for example, I'm not good enough, I don't belong, that will have a much different impact on you than if you're able to focus on something like, I will make this happen, I am prepared. Just locking in on something changes everything that follows. So if you focus on something positive, more positive thoughts follow. But if you lock in on something negative, it just opens the door. So not only is positive thinking a good way to put yourself in a better mind frame, it also prevents the negative thoughts from intruding. Now, this doesn't mean they don't exist or that they can't affect you. It just means that there's a significant lower chance of them actually making an impact on you. So if we look at the research on this field, of course, the findings are that when you condition your mind to extract and actually work at finding and concentrating on the positive, you have an overall more positive mind frame, and you experience less day-to-day stress. There was actually a recent article that I read by Ledgerwood and colleagues, just published last year, which actually took this concept a little bit further. What they found is that as human beings, we actually sometimes get stuck in the negative. So it's much more difficult for us to get over one negative experience than it is to forget about one positive experience. What this means is that it's not a one-to-one ratio. We know that if we're having a great day, we're moving along, all it takes is one bad experience for it to completely ruin our day. But that's not very rational. If you take a step back and look at the overall picture, you can see that you should evaluate yourselves on all of your experiences. The other thing is, because we know that sometimes we get stuck in these negative mind frames, we have to actively work at this. So we have to be able to chip away at it and understand that it's going to take more than one positive experience, but work is being done. If you're patient and you keep working at it, you can break the mold. So from that, we've talked about the link between our minds and our bodies. We've talked about dealing effectively and coping with everyday stressors. I want to talk a little bit now about expectations and how we can set ourselves up for mental success. So what I have here is a picture of Sir Roger Bannister, who was, amongst other things, a practicing physician, a scholar, as well as an Olympic runner. And in 1954, Roger Bannister, along with every other runner in the world, was trying to accomplish the same goal, and that was to run 1 mile in less than 4 minutes, a feat that, up until that point, no one in history had been able to accomplish. However, many people were coming extremely close. So a lot of people were running in 4.1 seconds, 4.02 seconds, but no one seemed to be able to break that threshold of 4 minutes. Naturally, people thought that the only logical explanation for this was that was the human limit. The fastest a human being could run this distance was 4 minutes, and so that is why people were coming close, but no one could believe it. No one could beat it. Roger Bannister didn't get the memo. So he believed, in his mind, he had the idea that if the circumstances were right and he executed to the best of his ability, he could do it. So guess what happened? Roger Bannister went out and he ran the 4-minute mile, the 1-minute mile, the 4-minute mile, sorry, in 3 minutes and 59 seconds. So just under that threshold. Now that, in and of itself, is very impressive that because of his mindset, because of his expectations, he was able to override all of the naysayers and all of the expectations. What's more impressive is that within 46 days of him breaking that record, over a dozen other runners also broke the 4-minute mile. So it wasn't that they weren't able to do it, it was more that there was a ceiling. There was a psychological ceiling that was placed on them before they actually started. And as soon as Roger Bannister broke that ceiling, people went in expecting success, and success followed, right? And so we can see this in many other domains too. In medicine, patients suffering from physical pain who are given sugar pills as placebos and told that it's actually painkillers experience significant reductions in pain relief. In competition, when researchers measure individuals' objective strength and then tell them that the person that they will be competing against in arm wrestling is weaker than them, when in reality they're actually stronger, the objectively weaker person wins 83% of the time. So simply believing that you're stronger than the person you're facing actually can have that much of an influence. Again, expectations leading to outcomes. In Olympic weightlifting, athletes are able to lift significantly more weight than they've lifted before when they're simply told that they're attempting a weight they've already successfully lifted. So when they're going in thinking, I've already done this, their expectation is I can do it again, that actually causes them to lift more than they've ever lifted before. All these examples are where research is highlighting the concept of expectations leading to outcomes. What can we do? How can we maximize this to our maximize these strategies? The first one is a very simple concept. Aim for the moon. You might have heard this quote before, but it's when you shoot for the moon, even when you miss, you land amongst the stars. It's important to have high expectations. If you don't believe yourself that you can accomplish it, it's very difficult to get on the right path. The other one is to set goals which are actually achievable and specific, measurable, relevant, and time-bound, where you can actually track them. Applying these principles make it much more easier to have positive expectations, which lead to successful outcomes. Now what I want to do is I want to take all of these psychological principles and bring them together into our last pillar, which we've termed the Queen's Performance. This idea conceptualizes all the things that don't fit into physical, nutritional, or psychological performance. So we have topics like attitude and reflection and passion, which we think are important but might not fit into those specific ideas. So first I'm going to read you a quote about attitude, which I think really encompasses all the things that we've talked about today. It's by Charles R. Swindoll, and it goes something like this. The longer I live, the more I realize the impact of attitude on life. Attitude to me is more important than facts. It is more important than the past, than education, than money, than circumstances, than failure, than successes, than what other people think or say or do. It is more important than appearance, gift, or skill. Attitude can make or break a church, a company, a school, a home. The remarkable thing is we have a choice every day regarding the attitude we embrace for the day. We cannot change the past. The only thing we can do is play on the one string we have, and that is our attitude. I am convinced that life is 10% what happens to me and 90% how I react to it. And so it is with you. We are all in charge of our attitude. And we share this quote with our participants very often. We find that it resonates with people because it simply goes back to the idea that you can't change the past, and no matter how hard you try, you can't always change the fact that things don't always go your way. But the only thing you can do is respond. And if you have a positive attitude at the beginning, it's much easier to deal with things during the process and end up with a better result. So taking this point, we have another concept here, which is about balance. Very often, one of the biggest things that people have struggled with is, how do I find time and energy for all the things that matter to me? Work, personal life, family, hobbies. And we have an idea called, with mountain climbing, in that after climbing a great hill, when one only finds that there are many more hills to climb. And life is a balance between climbing the mountains and stopping in between. So often nowadays, we get into a routine of just doing. We climb one mountain, and before we even take a look back and see how we got here and appreciate the work that was put into the success, we automatically begin climbing the next one. One of the simple strategies is treat your goals and your objectives as mountains. And once you accomplish and finish them, take a few minutes, a day, maybe a couple days, to look back on things you've done well, things you could have done better, what you learned along the way. But take moments to yourself along your journey. This is very much related to time management. And what we find is when people take a broader perspective on time management, it's much easier to find time for all the things that matter to you. When you try to fit all the things that are important to you in one single day, you often run out of time. There's only so many hours in a day. When you take a broader approach, for example, many people find it useful to look at time management on a weekly basis. Now you can divide your hours up into 168 hours instead of 24. Now you have a lot more flexibility to play with. Now it's up to you to decide, how can I maximize my time? The first is awareness. Be aware of where and how you're spending your time. Once you're aware of that, you can reflect on what are the things that are actually most important to me and how can I make time for all of them. And lastly, you can begin to make small changes that will free up a little bit of time and make it easier for yourself. To put this all together, I want to just finish with a very simple concept of what will you do with your jelly bean today? Now we have an idea that we share with our clients, which is every day of your life can be represented with a jelly bean, and you only have so many to work with. Every day one is gone, and you have one fewer in your jar. Now, what you do with it, the time, you can't stop time, you can't make it go slower, but what you can do is maximize whatever you can with what's in front of you. So, as they say, whether the glass is half full or half empty is all about how you look at the world. All the concepts that I've covered from a psychological perspective and from the Queen's performance all hit on this idea of today is a brand new day, and it's up to you to decide, the attitude you will take and how you will embark upon your journey. To put this together before we open it up for some question time, we want to just remind you that at the beginning, Ryan said, what can you do today to make yourself 1% better? We understand we've thrown a lot of things at you, different domains, different activities, different strategies, and you may not be able to apply every single one of them today. But hopefully you can find one hopefully you can find one thing which really resonated with you, and it'll have an impact on your life. So you can, for example, move more often, consider fitness in your routine, improve your sleep a little bit, simplify your nutritional strategy, eat mindfully, eat for energy, link your mind and body, learn to extract the positive, aim high, stop and reflect, maximize your time, and make the best of your jelly bean for the day. With this in mind, I think we will open it up to questions for the entire webinar and begin to make our way through the ones that we received. So I think Ryan has, do you have a question here, Ryan, that you want to, is it for me?
Yeah.
Okay, so question is, any suggestions on how to lead a team when there are too much negative thoughts in the team? It's a very good question that we get often, and it's, you know, sometimes you yourself might not have a problem with negative thoughts or stress management, but when you're working on a team, like they say, it only takes one person to kind of make it better for everyone or ruin it for everyone. So one strategy that you can utilize when you're working in a team setting is to just focus on what you can control and your ability. So we have a concept called the locus of control, and how you can visualize it is you have these two circles, one inside of the other. The inside one represents all the things you can control. Everything outside of that circle represents things that no matter how hard you try, you can't control. One of the biggest things which bogs us down that's outside of our locus of control is other people's behavior, other people's thoughts. So for example, if you're working in a team setting and someone is being difficult to work with, you cannot go inside that person's mind or body and change the way they work or how they think. What you can do is respond to those negative thoughts by maybe countering it with two positive thoughts or by giving a suggestion that you can work with. So I think the best strategy in team settings is to make it about yourself. Ask yourself the question, what can I do that's inside of my locus of control that might not completely remedy this individual or this negative thought, but it will make it a little bit better. Hopefully that can be a strategy that you can apply.
So another question we had is, where can I find the best resources for the Tabata workout? Another great question. We get this question quite a bit, and there's many great online resources. The one that we most commonly refer people to is an app, the 12-Minute Athlete app, in which many of our participants and staff, for that matter, download and actually utilize on a daily basis. Essentially what that allows you to do is to combine the timing of the Tabata workout, which is essentially a 20 seconds of workout versus 10 seconds of rest, with some great exercises. So the app has you going through the exercises, and you would be able to pick or choose the exercises that you want to do. Another question I've received is, why is it bad to eat too much meat? Well, another great question, and if we go back to one of the very first slides, one of the suggestion was to kind of limit the amount of meat that we're eating. And I think the important thing to remember with this is one of our beliefs is moderation. Moderation when it comes to diet and nutrition is extremely important, as is diversification. So the two things that we like to recommend for people is it's never a great idea to eat too much of any one thing, but it's also good to be diverse, to make sure that you're getting the necessary nutrients. The concept of it being bad to eat meat, one of the things that we do want people to be thinking about is we only need so much protein. So when we consume meat, we do get protein, and the need for protein in our diet is a little bit less than some of the other important elements that we receive through fruits and vegetables. So all I would suggest there is modification, not eating too much of any one thing, and making sure that your diet is diverse.
So we've got a question here. How to influence people who lack the attitude or desire to change their lives? So, very, very difficult question. Again, hitting on the idea of not only how to better yourself, but also those around you. I was fortunate enough this year to take a class in the School of Business here at Queen's with Julian Barling, who is one of the professors here who teaches on organizational behavior and leadership. And one of the big takeaways that I was able to walk away with from Julian's class was that one of the best ways to influence people and change other people's behavior is with your own behavior. And sometimes, they say you have to lead by example if you want other people to follow. And especially when we're talking about ideas such as attitude and passion and desire, really it's about motivation and motivating people to better themselves. And often it's not the big things, it's the small things. And in our class we talked about what are the smallest things that you can do that will have the greatest impact on people. So it's small cues that people will pick up on that will motivate them. And the reason why that's so important is that from a psychological perspective, we're social beings. And as human beings, we're extremely sensitive to social cues. So when someone influences us in a positive or negative way, we very much, that enters our mind and that sticks with us. So if you can find ways to, lead by example and show other people your passion and attitude and desire, then there's a very good chance that they will follow up on that.
Following up on some other questions that we have, very similar to what Fizan mentioned in terms of the value of you taking action to inspire others. So we've had a couple of questions on how can you help leaders in your organization realize that they may need to make a change, or how do you begin to make that 1% change in an organization? And I'm going to go back to really what Fizan just said, is it really does all start with you. So if you're wanting to inspire others, really simply, we suggest putting the mirror in front of you and inspiring yourself first, and then secondly, trying to get out to other people. We've also had a quick question. I probably didn't say it clearly enough, but the Tabata app that we recommend is called the 12-Minute Athlete. So I think we're just about done, and we're gonna wrap up for today. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you very much on behalf of Fizan and I and the Queen's School Business community for joining us. We hope that you have a great afternoon. Take care. Goodbye.